All right, welcome to the Eric Tries Too Hard podcast. Today I have Josh. How's it going, man?
Good. I literally just woke up. What time is it? 10:15. 20 minutes ago. So I'm
Exactly.
good, man.
Dude, me too. It's the same thing. It's always the amount. Yeah, I do a lot of these hungover today. Fortunately, it's not one of those. But yeah, no. Well, hey, man. So you are a stand-up comic. You do improv comedy, and you
Mhm.
do a podcast called the Digression Sessions. Correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, man. Dude, that's fucking awesome. When did you start? When did you know you were gonna do comedy stuff? How old are you? Also.
Oh, I'm 28 years young in the biblical sense. I don't know what that means. I started comedy. I started taking improv classes about like 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and it was one of those things where you realize you can just sign up for a class. Like like I
Mhm.
didn't understand with comedy. It's like, oh, you just go do it. Like realizing that there's a Baltimore improv group, and I'm like, well, how do you get into that? Like, oh, just sign up for a class, and then you take the classes, you audition, and then through that, I started a podcast with Mike Moran, my co-host of the show, because we work together at Paper Moon Diner here in Baltimore, and he loves stand up, and I love podcasts because I work in a cubicle. So
Yep.
if it weren't, yeah, so if it weren't for podcast, I would have killed myself a long time ago. So we started a podcast, and then through that, getting to know like local stand-ups, and Mike egging me on to do stand-up. I got into it about like 2 years ago. So I've been doing improv for like 3 years or so, and then stand-up for about two, a little more than two.
So taking it back to start with improv. I actually didn't realize that. I've listened to a handful of your podcasts, but I didn't learn that at any point. But
Mhm.
so you went into it. That's really interesting. So what got you to start doing improv? Like, I mean, obviously you saw it and you wanted to, but like what?
I guess I just really like every comedian that I heard on a podcast, even if they're not a comedian anymore, or like they were a writer or something, even like Adam Carolla and people like that, they would say like, hey, so how'd you start comedy? It's like, well, I took an improv class, and maybe they didn't stick with it, but it seemed that a lot of people, like Pete Holmes, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, all those people, like, oh, I started in improv. And I was like, well, I really love comedy. Why not give improv a shot? And then I found out about the Baltimore Improv Group, and then it was just pretty much over from there.
Wow. It was just one day you're listening to a podcast, you're
Pretty
bored at
much.
work, and you're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's something I could do.
Yeah, pretty much. It
That's
was like,
awesome.
hey, I have $150. I could do this.
You're an adult. You have
Yeah.
$150. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an adult. I can spend my money. And then, 7 weeks later, you have your showcase like you're a little kid, and you invite your friends and
Your talent
family.
show.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much. And you're like, hey, come watch me do the make-em-ups. It's going to be fun. I'm pretending to hold a banana. And they're like, oh, this is what you pay for?
Yeah. You don't tell them you paid. Come on. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
that's very reminiscent to. I mean, I've always been in bands, and you basically do that like every couple of months.
Pay to
Hey, everybody.
pay to play.
Oh, that was ugh. That was all. Oh, actually, this is I'm getting ahead of myself here, but when oh no, I'll get to it later. But pay to play, we're gonna talk about that.
Okay, write it
Um,
down.
yeah, exactly. So when okay, so before you one day got a wild hair up your ass to go do improv,
Uh-huh.
there's got to be something long before. What was that first memory of, maybe it was seeing a stand-up comic or maybe even hearing a podcast, but what was that first memory where you're like, there's something different about comedy? There's something that
Um,
gets you obsessed with it.
I was fortunate early on. My mom showed me Eddie Murphy's Delirious. Like
How
she's
old were you?
too young to be watching Delirious.
Yeah, yeah.
um, I forget. I mean, it was so long ago. It was like Blockbuster was still king,
Yep.
and we had the VHS of it.
I
And
used to sneak rent Def Comedy Jam tapes.
right. Yeah, put it in like I don't know, some other like Land Before Time case or something like
Land
that.
of
Just
Jesus.
sneak it in. So no, yeah, I think she was watching it and just, oh my God, Goonie Goo Goo killed me, and then the whole Mr. T thing, like I'm gonna rip your dick off with my butt cheeks, and just like and George Carlin, I got into George Carlin super young, and I just always loved comedy, and me and my friends, I always thought we were funny as shit, and I just never
It's
it
almost.
just as most friends do, I think, like we would try to bust balls, and but and just we were always really funny, and it just never dawned on me like, oh, I should go to an open mic, you know, like, so I didn't end up starting comedy until I was 26, you know, which to some people it's late, to some people it's early, but you know, I think that's all kind of relative. But yeah, I had just always been into it, like Eddie Murphy, SNL, I watched that every weekend, and you know, kind of the usual stuff, like knowing that I'm obsessed with this thing, looking back on it, but then in the time you're like, oh, this is just something I like, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's so okay. So now you're doing improv,
Mm-hmm.
and at that point, were you said you were working at the Paper Moon Diner,
Yeah,
or
I was. Was that? Let me see. No, I think when I started improv, I had been at the Social Security Administration for like a year, where I still am in cubicle land.
I've worked in for the longest time in the psych field, and I
Mm-hmm.
used to work in the, I guess, severe mentally ill field. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to have to call you guys all the time to get
Right.
yeah, to get re-ups, as we
Mm-hmm.
called them in the biz. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that is the
uh,
technical term. Thank you for
exactly,
that.
exactly. How did you? So tell me about when and how you met Mike.
Mike Moran,
Hmm.
he was. I knew that he was doing stand up, but he just worked at Paper Moon, and he was like a friend of a friend. And when you work at a restaurant, I don't know if you've ever done that, but like you kind of develop into like a little family, kind of.
Hmm.
It's kind of cool. Like it is really fun. Like it's kind of like us against them. Like you hate everyone that comes in, you know. But it's like, hey, how are you? Get the fuck out, you know.
Yeah.
And Mike was always really funny, and we almost had like a kind of a combative relationship at first, where it was like, I don't know, two people that thought they were funny, like kind of like fighters, kind of like feeling each other out in the ring, you know. And like we had a mutual friend, Louisa, who was a waitress at or server, I guess is the term, at a Paper Moon, and she's like, "Oh, Mike's funny, you're funny," and we just started like kind of hanging out. And then he was in the Baltimore Improv group, and I was like, "Oh
Oh, okay.
shit!" So then I started taking classes, and then we became like much more friendly, and then we started the podcast like 4 years ago, 4 years and change, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So you guys hadn't really known each other that well before you started the podcast, right? Or had you gotten to know each other real well in the improv group and then you started the podcast?
I don't think we hung out that much. Like, we would go see Mike perform kind of locally, like some people from Golden West, or me and my girlfriend, and I think then we hung out a little bit, but it wasn't like we had like an intense relationship. And they're like, we should do a podcast. I think we were just kind of buddies, and I was like, hey, I have a bunch of recording equipment. He would talk about podcasts. I would talk about podcasts. I was like, let's just start one. And then we did, because any asshole can have a podcast.
Exactly. Yes. That is something that I learned about a year ago, and it's fantastic. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Um, no, okay. So then you start. So what's your main focus as far as, I guess, present day with your? What are you hoping? I guess kind of takes you the distance as far as a comedy career.
Man, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I I kind of worry about that sometimes, like the whole jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
really, I've been focusing on stand up more than improv, but I feel like improv and stand up kind of influence each other. They're like muscles that reinforce each other. Like, you know, buys and tries, bro. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, listen. Oh, I know. Oh my God, I'm so
I could
familiar with
tell. I
those
could see
muscles.
you. You're so ripped right now. It's
Yeah. Oh
incredible.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I like the podcast without your shirt on. It's
Yeah.
really
No, it's
getting
it's
me going.
unprofessional, is what it is, but it's for
Nah.
you.
The swastika tattoos are a bit much, but you know, I'm not gonna judge. I'm not judging.
They're I mean, I would, more is what I was thinking.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, there's not enough, but it's okay.
I can I have to I have to go back to when you joked about putting an Eddie Murphy special in Land Before Time box, and
Yeah,
all I can think of, what's the main guy, Littlefoot, Little Dinosaur?
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
All I can picture is him saying Eddie Murphy bits, and it's been distracting me.
yeah. Goody goo goo.
um, the tragedy behind Land Before Time.
Oh,
I don't know if you're.
very sad. Very sad.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Let's move on. That's just too much. Too
Yeah.
much. Too much heat.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Go on.
back to your other question. I was just gonna say, I don't know. you know, because I'm involved in like a live kind of sketch show, like talk show, this thing called Chuckle Storm that we do every other month, and we do live sketch for that, and then we just started recording sketches. So, between improv, stand-up, podcast, live sketch, like I'm hoping it's all just building towards something. Like I just want to be like, the guy we're like, oh, Josh is funny, we should get him involved in this, or just keep getting my name out there, and then hopefully land in some position where you get paid for comedy.
Yeah, wherever those may be. Well, you're like, well, this thing with comedy, you are representing yourself.
Yeah.
I always love talking to comics because we can compare it to how being in a band is. I like looking for the similarities and the differences. One thing that I've noticed is that so if you're in a band, you're focused on a unit, but you still have. It took me forever to realize. Oh, even when you're in a band, you should be going for your own stuff. You should be making sure your name is out there, not just your band. So like, and so that's what I think it's natural for comedians to be like. Well, I can be part of this troupe. I can be part of this weekly show, this podcast, but I still have my name, my brand out there. And the way I've always described, like with bands, whether it's playing shows, playing cover shows, playing acoustic shows, playing whatever it is, or going to promote somewhere, whether it's yourself or your band, I always think of those as lottery tickets, where you want to get as many lottery tickets as possible to increase your chances of winning, but you still have to win the fucking lottery. Like you can't. It doesn't change the fact that you have to win the lottery, and I feel like sounds like what you're doing with comedy, where you are making sure that you're having enough possible avenues to success that one of them might actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I'm collecting all the tickets. I'm like, is it sketch? Do you guys like sketch? Is that what it is? No, podcast? Give me the podcast ticket. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So one thing that I noticed, and I guess I assumed that you and Mike had known each other for a while and been buddies, because the way that you're granted, the majority of the ones I've listened to were from this past year. Yeah. And you guys sound like you've just been hanging out forever. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean we're very close. Like now, like so when we started, I mean we were definitely friends, and I think we were both really excited. Like we had a similar sensibility as far as like comedy goes, and then we both are really busy because Mike does improv and he does stand up too, and he does a bunch of other stuff. So now the podcast is just like an excuse to hang out, basically. Yep. So like when our schedules line up, we're catching up with each other. Like, so what have you been doing? So that's and then we just record it for strangers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, yesterday. So my far off, distant relationship with you guys was that about a year ago, maybe a year and 3 months ago. I don't know what came over me, probably because I've been listening to podcasts for a while. I'd always been obsessed with comedy, completely obsessed.
Really?
But my hobby was always music. Like, I love that more than comedy. And something happened where I was like, I want to do something tangentially related to comedy over music now. I don't know why it just happened. So I started looking up local Baltimore comics, shows, and stuff. And I found Digression Sessions. And I guess it's Digression Sessions. I pronounce things wrong. But it's okay.
No, it's fine. It's in the eye of the beholder. You make it your own.
It's
the
in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not our podcast. It's the world.
It's the world. Yeah.
Did I just blow my brains out?
It's very much your. That's what I love about every artist who will says that, even like I have friends who are in much more successful bands than I, and I'll see these like really cool like print interviews they do with like big magazines and shit, and they're like, yeah, we just feel that it's the world's music, and then I'll talk to them and be like, yeah, those fucking assholes don't get it. This is mine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The podcast
really
loves the dick jokes I make in my basement. It's for them. It's for the world.
Jesus. Oh my God. I mean, for periods of time when I was sick of like before I did this Hangouts thing, trying to arrange people's schedules to do it in person, I got so fed up with like, yeah, exactly, but so many flaky bands, and it was just so frustrating that eventually I just like talked to myself for like a month and on the podcast, and holy shit, the amount of narcissism that comes out when I'm just like letting myself go, it's fucking crazy. No, but I found your podcast. And ever since then, your like ape logo, the ubiquitous ape logo, is everywhere. Like,
oh, good.
Say, yeah.
Good. Yeah, Moran just got magnets made. So I'm excited about that. I'm trying to get in that fridge game. You know what I'm talking about?
Keep your fridge game strong.
You really do. You really do. That's how you get word out there. That's how Comedy Bang Bang started. Lots of magnets.
Lots of. You know what? I know you're joking, but that's entirely possible.
Yeah, I think merch is a part of it. Like I've given stickers out a bunch, and when I go places, I'll put stickers in bathrooms and random spots. And there was actually one time a girl in New York was like, I put a sticker up in this bowling alley in Brooklyn, and she found us on Facebook, and she was like, "Hey, I saw your logo. Do you have any shirts with that logo?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. So you liking the podcast?" She's like, "It's okay. I'm more of a logo." I was like, "Okay, that's cool. Whatever, you know."
Yeah, I think the Ramones have that same problem, but I don't think they give. Well, they're all dead, but I don't think
Yeah.
who's still alive and has it? The Misfits. I don't think they give a shit.
Yeah, or one of them maybe alive. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they're.
Yeah,
I could go on and on about the history of the Misfits. Yeah,
yeah, you should talk to Moran. He loves the Misfits. Big into it. Yeah, he
how
went and saw
old is that guy?
Moran, he's 47. Can you believe it?
Wait, for real?
No.
No, oh my God. I was like, he is so good looking in your pictures.
I know.
How did you do it?
I think Mike's in his like early 30s, somewhere in there. Maybe like
So he's not
31.
going to let you tell people?
Nah.
That's what that is?
It's over. You got to bleep all this out. Yeah, I think he's somewhere around there. But no, Mike went and saw the Misfits like a year ago or something like that.
Well, in their prime.
Yeah, exactly.
You only get there right when it's hot.
The Misfits are a fine wine. Only better with age, you know?
Yeah, except there is just one left in the band. And he was the bass player who, Jesus, oh my God, Jerry Only's a lunatic. I fucking love the Misfits.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him. But yeah, I do know that it's like all new members basically, and then one guy with a bald spot that he's brushing forward, you know?
That's what they called a devil lock, like a devil mohawk. And he used to have a full head of hair, and he would do that. And now it's his comb over lock or whatever. Crazy.
So sad. So sad.
Yeah. So how long have you been in the Baltimore area? Are you from here?
I'm from Kent Island, which is like the eastern shore of Maryland.
I've accidentally driven there once.
Most people have. Most people have. Like, what the fuck did I do? I got to get out of here. Yeah, if you've been to Ocean City, Maryland, when you cross the Bay Bridge going east, that's Kent Island right there. That's how I have to describe it to people. They're like, I think I've been on that.
My uncle just moved out there like a year ago, which is gorgeous. That fucking area is nice.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Well, then you grew up there. It's like, shut the fuck up.
It is true. It is really pretty, but you know, when you're like, I don't know, 9 or 10 looking for something to do, you're not like, well, guys, you know, we're really bored, but it's beautiful, you know.
Let's go to the crab shack. Let's grab a bucket. And let's just go down and watch the
Yeah. Let's just roll up our overalls and go down there and get some crabs.
Oh, is it like that?
It's a little rednecky. Not too much, but yeah, it is nice. You know, you took for granted having like beaches everywhere and that type of thing. But
these fucking beaches.
Oh God. I want some pavement. Sand is so boring. It's in my fucking shoes.
Is that the Kent Island accent?
Yeah, what the fuck? No! The fucking gabagool. That's where they shot The Sopranos, was Kent Island.
Is it? Yeah. Starring Andrew Dice Clay, apparently.
Yeah, he was in it too.
Oh, man.
Oh! That's
my favorite impression of anybody ever. Just saying "oh" really loud and surprised.
It's very easy. Yeah, I was trying to do a joke for a while. It works sometimes where it's Andrew Dice Clay playing Forrest Gump in Forrest Gump, and he's like, Will
you grace us with that impression?
Yeah, sure. Okay. The bit is saying like ever since he was in Blue Jasmine, Andrew Dice Clay, like he's a decent actor, you know, and I was thinking he could have been in a lot more stuff. You know, we've missed out on some really juicy roles over the years. He could have been in Forrest Gump as the titular character, Forrest Gump, right? And there'd be that seminal scene where Jenny's explaining why they can't be in love, and Forrest would be like, I may not be a smart man, but at least I don't have AIDS, you fucking hooah! Oh! The cigarette over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta do that. That's a. By the way, good joke, solid setup. Holy shit.
Oh, hey, thank you.
When you announced it,
material on the podcast there.
Oh yeah. Don't burn anything on this thing. That's one thing I like about. I have a very small listener base, but everybody there is someone who's like super into going out to comics or bands. Like that's like So people might actually come see you. I don't fucking know, but a lot of
That'd be great.
Yeah. So how often do you do the sidebar open mic thingy?
I try to. I did it this past week, but sometimes I have improv practice on Monday nights, so I go to that, and then sign up is at like 8 o'clock. So if I miss the sign up and then I show up to sidebar, I won't go up till like 11:30.
Yeah.
Pretty late.
Yeah,
So
fuck. We have real jobs. I'm 29, so I feel you. Fucking
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. You get older, then you're like, well, I have to get up at 7, and I don't have any almond milk, so I'm not really going to be myself in the morning. So I don't have time for this.
Well, yeah, no, that's so. I only asked specifically about Sidebar. That's a place that I've gone to since I was like 16 years old, and
Hmm.
a place I've played a million times. I fucking love that venue, and the fact that they have such a what seems to be a booming like open mic is really fucking cool.
Yeah, the Monday night mic is usually pretty good. It's a good mix of comics and then people just hanging out watching the show. And God bless them for coming out to watch people try new material. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, I don't know why anybody ever goes to an open mic, but God bless the people that do.
Well, that is a good sell. I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, hey man, I don't know what the fuck you're thinking, but please, by all means,
Yeah.
that's how I sell open mics.
It's the $2 PBRs is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah, right. And you're like,
Um,
well, the comedy's not that bad, and the beer's
yeah,
cheap.
this is like the thing with your shirts versus the podcast. They're just like, oh yeah, the
Uh-huh.
beer's great. Beer's great. You enjoying the
Yeah,
show?
it's okay. It's not
I'll tell you
awesome.
what, it's getting better. It's
Yeah,
getting better with everyone.
I don't
Um,
hate it.
so, yeah. Oh, goddamn, lost my train of thought. Whatever. I'll jump into the one thing I was remembering. Pay to play.
Yeah,
So when I was like when you. By the way, thank you for doing this podcast, man. I appreciate it.
yeah. I mean, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Well,
It's
the
literally the easiest podcast you could do. It's like, oh, I guess I'll go to my basement and talk
yeah.
into my laptop.
When you're like, yeah,
You're
where do
welcome,
you?
Eric.
You're like, where do you do it? And I was like, oh, online. You're like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
Got it.
that's easy.
Well, the pay to play thing. So when you agreed to do it, I was like, oh, I haven't actually listened in a few months. I should go back and I admit I haven't listened to every single one, but it's like you're in my whatever like subscribe thing. So
Cool.
whenever I'm flipping through, I'll be like, oh yeah, there's one.
Hmm.
And so I went back and maybe it was more than a few months. Maybe it's been like 4 or 5 because I was scrolling in. And I was like, oh, these are some higher profile guests. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I know that guy from some small thing, or I've seen that guy open up for somebody big. And then I was like, oh shit, Joe DeRosa. They got Joe DeRosa. And then I go to the next page. I'm like, yeah. And then I go to the next page. I'm like, well, that's them with Patton Oswalt.
Hmm.
So that's fucking really cool that you've been able to get some of the more high profile guests, especially one like Patton. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. And yeah, and before I clicked on it, I was like, oh, I gotta ask him how he got that. That's really fucking cool. And of course, you tell the story at the beginning of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what's crazy is I remember that day when he was tweeting about trying to meet up with John Waters.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, that was absolutely that was just all over. People were yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I should have done a little more to capitalize on that and maybe like sent that story to like a comedy blog or something like that. But yeah, it was incredible, man. We're lucky in Baltimore that some stuff shoots here, like House of Cards and Veep, and so Veep is they're here a lot. Like they're pretty thorough with like taking time to shoot and all that stuff. So they're here for like months out of the year. And
Is that
Patton
in
Oswalt,
Baltimore or is that
yeah,
in DC?
it's
Oh, okay.
it's the show is takes place in DC, but they shoot in Baltimore because it's cheaper, and then they make it look like DC.
Yeah,
You know.
probably. I
Uh,
was gonna say, you did have a lot of Veep people on. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
I was like,
coincidence.
why the fuck not? Yeah, we're basically like the Veep podcast for a little bit. That
It's
was
like
fine with me. I love that show, man, and everybody involved. And so, yeah, so I mean, we had Matt Walsh on, we had Brian Husky, and then Patton Oswalt was in town for that, and he couldn't say that he was, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure. But we like to say that he flew out just to do the podcast, is
yeah.
what we like to say. But yeah, so the whole thing with that was, yeah, he tweeted to John Waters, but not really, because John Waters isn't on Twitter. So he just tweeted like, "Hey, John Waters, I'm at your altar in Hamden at Common Ground, ready to like worship at your altar." And my friend screen capped that, and that's like a coffee shop that's in my neighborhood. And he sent me that, and I was like, "Holy shit!" So I was like, all right, I'll just tweet at him. You know, he has 1.2 million followers. So I was like, hey, I can we can do a podcast if you want. And I can find a guy that looks like John Waters. And he fucking responded. He wrote like, well, how mobile are you? And then I started getting nervous, like my face is red, and like I feel like like time has slowed down, like I'm in the Matrix. And I'm not doing anything cool. I'm just like, oh, we're mobile as shit.
Yeah, that was a great visual joke for the podcast. Sorry, keep going. Yes, I did bullet time. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm slowly typing on my iPhone each little dumb joke, like, it's like, we're mobile as shit, man. And he goes, all right, well, I'll be here for a bit. How long are you gonna be? And I was like, oh, dude, give us an hour. And as this is unfolding, I was at my cubicle, and then during that time, while he's getting back to me, I went to a meeting. And so I'm at the meeting, and I have just stopped paying attention to what's going on. You know, everybody's like, so for fiscal 15, have we talked about the appropriation? You know, and I'm just not paying attention. And like, you know, I think my face had gone like I just looked like probably insane, like huge eyes just typing. And so I stopped the meeting, and I was like, I have to say something. And I like, you know, six people just looked at me, and I think they thought I was going to say like, my grandma's dead or something like that, you know, like, because I'm like intently on my phone. And I was just like, and there were so many things I wanted to say, like what a podcast is.
You have to go into all of that stuff.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt, he's in my neighborhood. I do a podcast, all this shit. So I was like, do you guys know who Patton Oswalt is? He's like one of my heroes, and he wants to do my radio show. I call it like a radio show. It's like an internet like radio show. Does anybody know who he is? And one woman was like, oh, I think I know who that is. I was like, good enough. He's real. I'm out of here. So I didn't even like clock out. And luckily my manager's cool. She's like, remember us little people. And I was like, I'm on it. Yeah, she was.
That's her going like, I can write jokes too.
Yeah, she is funny. She's really cool. She
doesn't listen to this podcast.
No.
You can tell you really feel.
She's not that cool. She's in the corner behind me, Eric. No. So.
That's what that speaker is behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Don't say anything. So I raced home, got my mobile rig. My girlfriend was home, and you know she was actually really cool. She's like, no, I'll drive because you can't waste time trying to find parking. And I called Moran. I was like, dude, we're about to interview Patton Oswalt. Like, you need to. I don't know what you're doing, but you need to get to common ground. And he was like, well, I'm at the gym. Should I shower? And I was like, Mike, it doesn't fucking matter. I don't care. Do what you gotta do. And Patton, he could not have been a cooler guy, man. Like, just, I mean, even beyond being like a comedy hero, that was amazing to talk to him. But he seriously was one of the nicest dudes. Like, he bought us lattes. And,
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we started recording outside on like the back patio of this coffee shop, and I just felt like such an idiot. The batteries in my mobile recorder started to die. So we're like 6 or 7 minutes in. I'm like, excuse me, Mr. Oswalt. You know.
Dude, my heart dropped when I heard that.
Yeah,
like, as I was listening to it, I was like, ooh, and I was like, I know that it's an hour and 10 minutes long, so it's gonna be okay. But it's like when you're watching a movie and like somebody's about to die, and you're like, I know they're gonna be okay. Like they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine.
Yeah, they wouldn't get Ewan McGregor in this film just to kill him in the first 5 minutes. You know, or like when you watch SVU and you're like, oh, Screech is in this episode. He's probably the rapist.
Yeah,
you know?
Probably.
So I think that's a fair analogy to Patton Oswalt.
He would appreciate that. Patton, huge listener of this podcast. It's him and like 4 other people, and it's really, really good. Thank you, Patton, for all your help.
He likes to support the scenes, man. He's big into it. Yeah, so I was just like, oh, can we move inside? I'm sorry, I got to plug it in. And he's like, oh, yeah, I don't mind at all. And, like, you know, I thought he was just going to hang out for maybe, like, 10 minutes and be like, okay, you know, but he hung out for over an hour. And he was so fucking cool, man. So, you know, and retweeted everything and was super nice.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude, it got us on the charts. It was crazy. We were in, like,
nice.
we were like, I think like 112 on like the comedy charts for like a
That's
week or
fucking
something
great.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fucking cool. And
Dude, I have open micers who don't retweet when they're on my podcast.
I know, yeah.
It's so nice of him.
Just hit the fucking button. Like, yeah, I've had that with people too. It's like, all right, well, don't do the show. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but it's a weird thing. So, but then the kind of the culmination of the whole thing was later he was on Pete Holmes' podcast, Patton Oswalt, and at the end he was talking about advice and like telling people to go see comedy.
I was gonna mention this if you didn't.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was in my cubicle, as I'm wont to be, obviously, and listening to the Pete Holmes podcast with Patton Oswalt, and at the end he's giving advice and talking about, telling people to go see comedy, and he's like, it's everywhere, man. Like, Denver has a great scene, San Francisco, and then he pauses and he goes, hell, even Baltimore has a scene. And I was like, yeah, he's talking about us. But it was so funny.
That's so cool.
It's like a qualifier, He's like, Jesus, even fucking Baltimore has something going on. It's like, yeah, we do.
Dude, I had not heard your podcast with him until after that. So I heard him on Pete Holmes, and I even went home. I told my wife, I was like, I think I should start going to more comedy shows in Baltimore. Apparently, Patton Oswalt thinks it's the shit.
Yeah, and
that's you guys.
Yeah, it was really cool because he was asking us like where we perform and all that stuff, and it was so cool, man. Yeah. So cool.
Dude, that's so fucking awesome. Well, so the reason, and thank you for telling all that. Like, I didn't want to, again with my wife when I told her about that I was talking to you today.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned the Patton Oswalt thing. She goes, "You're not going to ask him about that, are you?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to bring it up." That's kind of like, I was like, well, all the people on my podcast, like, their credits are the people who actually have credits that they've interacted with. So, like, I have to do that. But I didn't want to make you rehash any, like, thing you've had to talk about a million fucking times.
I bring it up to strangers when I buy coffee. Like, speaking of coffee, I once recorded a podcast with Patton Oswalt in a coffee shop. Isn't that something? All right, have a good day. I give them a magnet to put on their fridge.
There you go, yeah. That's your fridge. You're going to love it. Don't listen to the podcast, though. It's just all right.
It's a great logo, though. Enjoy that.
Well, so the reason I brought that up was the pay-to-play thing. Right before I listened to that podcast, I had one of my I have interactions every week from my band with people like promoters trying to run pay-to-play scams.
Oh, yeah.
Now, usually with a pay-to-play scam, there's like a promoter and then one band that benefits from this. Usually the band is managed by that promoter.
Yeah.
And I had one promoter in particular that kind of like offered us like a bullshit gig, basically hey, can you give me a couple $100 for nothing? And like, that was great. And of course with the whole, you'll get so much exposure, you get whatever. But what pissed me off was this dude manages like my friend's band. And I was like, people I've known for years. So I was like, what the fuck is this? Don't talk to me like I just got here. Like, that's fucked up. And I like posted about it online, and I was going through, and so as I started listening to that one, I was going through with some people online talking about this situation, and then you guys started mentioning pay to play in comedy essentially, and I didn't realize that was a thing. Like that blew my mind. So if you had any experience with that kind of thing?
Fortunately not too much, and I grew up playing in bands too, and then Moran and I played in a band together for a while, and I think he's still playing. I played drums in that band, and there were a couple awful shows where it's like, hey, do you want to play some theater? And it's like, yeah, great. And they're like, okay, we got to sell 97 tickets in 3 hours. And you're like, what?
That sounds like a shitty reality show.
Yeah, right. Or we'll kill you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is those things like, where it's that bullshit of saying like, it's like, dude, you can make $800 on the show. It's like, really? It's like, oh yeah, you just have to sell 700 tickets. Like, oh, well, that's not gonna happen.
It's like, I could do that I could rent a bar for $50 to $100 and do the same exact thing and keep everything. Like, I fucking hate this. Sorry, and I'm just getting angry.
No, I'm with you. It's terrible because then they try to have as many bands as possible.
Yep.
Then the people that show up for that band, they're friends of that band. So when they're done, they leave, and by the time you go on, you're 5 people there, and you're like, oh, you know.
Well, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah, and
The exposure was great.
right. Yeah, exactly. I've been exposed to my friends and family who now hate me.
Yep.
Yeah, and there is a similar thing with comedy. They're called bringer shows.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've heard that term.
So it's basically the same thing, which is paid a dick joke, basically. Yeah, so yeah, you have to bring 4 or 5 people to some gig, and they have to say they're there for you, and they buy a ticket, and then it sucks too, because usually at most comedy places, there's a 2-item minimum. So not only are they buying a ticket, they got to get a drink, or they got to buy Mott sticks or whatever, So fortunately, I don't have too much experience with that. I was kind of lucky to just, there's a lot of open mics that aren't like that, but then there's kind of book shows that are bringers, and then there's comedy contests, and like one of the bigger local clubs here, Magoobies, has a new talent showcase most Thursdays of the month, and that is a bringer show essentially. Like you have to bring like 4 or 5 people or something like that. So fortunately, I never had to do that. So I've been lucky in that sense.
Well, that's really awesome that you were. Well, but you kind of went in. You did your improv. You did improv stuff, and you started the podcast before you were doing any kind of stand-up. So you were able to build up some kind of name for yourself.
Yeah, definitely a little bit. So then the cool thing is too, there is a decent scene here in Baltimore and in DC. So you go to enough mics, and then same way if you play a show with a band you really like, they're like, oh man, you guys were great. We're doing a show in Pennsylvania in 2 months. We'd love to have you on. So same thing with comedy. So you go down and do a couple mics. Somebody's like, oh, you were cool. Are you free? Next Saturday. And then it just kind of grows from there.
Yeah. That's really awesome. How much? So I guess. I noticed that you've done, was it just the one, or have you done multiple live podcasts?
We've done 2 live ones. I didn't release the second one because we had, our guests were Tommy Simbazo, Baltimore comedian, and this guy, Height Keach, who's like a Baltimore rapper. And he's been in the scene for a minute, and so we had both of them on, but I also did individual episodes with them, so I didn't want to, we kind of rehashed the same stuff, and so it was a good episode, and then they're different enough. I think I might release it as like a special episode at some point.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
I liked how when you started, you're like, yes, the first guy he's a comedy artist from the local theater.
Yeah.
And then the rapper, he's been here for a minute though.
He's been here for a minute. Yeah, that's I'm hip. This cat has been hip hopping all over the streets.
You're doing hippity hop is what we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm super cool, Eric.
I'm super. That's your rap name. I'm super cool.
Hey, it's me.
Super cool, Josh.
Josh, white super cool guy, and I'm here to say that I still shop at Best Buy. We'll work on it. Fix that in post, will you?
No, I'll punch it up for you.
Thank you.
We'll be fine.
You're a musician. Yeah. Fix that.
Yeah. Okay. Take 2.
Yeah.
That's what my producer always says every time I record something that's like not optimal. He'll just be like, "Oh man, right on. Let's try it again. No, it's great. It's great. Let's just try it again. That was perfect. Let's try it again."
Yep. Dude, that was so great. Could never do it better. But let's just try. Why not?
Let's just see. Do one more, 5 more times, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, have fun with it. Just have fun. Yeah.
So you've been doing stand-up, what, 2 years now? 2 and change?
Yeah, a little over 2 years. January, late December, early January was 2 years.
When you go up, how much time do you do now? Typically. I know it varies.
It kind of varies from show to show. Like if you're doing kind of like a showcase show, everybody might be doing like 10 minutes somewhere in there. I host a lot, and hosting sets are normally like 10 to 15, and then I've been able to middle here and there if you're what's called the feature act, and then you do anywhere from like 20 to 30, sometimes 35. But I have about 25 to 30 minutes of material that I feel really strong about. I probably have more than that that's like decent, Like that Andrew Dice Clay joke, like I think it's really funny, and some other comedians think it's funny, but some audiences are just like, who the fuck is he talking about?
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Yeah, no, I mean...
Our comedy audiences tend to be younger now? Is that just how that... I kind of figured the audience grew with comedy at this point.
Yes and no. I mean, it just sometimes it depends on the show, like where you're performing. Like you could be performing somewhere pretty cool, and then like Magoobies, the early show on a Friday at like 7:45, you're getting kind of an older crowd. So it just kind of depends where you're performing and what time. So.
Well, so you are probably, and by probably I mean 100%, the most experienced comic that I've been talking to. Maybe there's one other dude who I've had on this. I haven't released them all because I do so many every week.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know, like I've talked to a lot of dudes, and you're definitely up there as far as experience. And
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty new. I'm pretty new at this. I just switched to comics a few months ago.
Oh yeah. So are you talk to like musicians and stuff as well?
That's what I did for the first like six
Mm-hmm.
6 months or so. And then I talked to myself like a
Yeah.
lunatic.
Yeah.
And this is actually what I wanted to bring up before, because I was going to ask you. Actually, yeah, just do it in order. I have such ADD. Whatever.
Hey, let it fly, man.
Let it fly.
Let it fly.
So yeah. So because you have that experience, and it looks like the majority of people that I talk to are kind of up and coming with this. What kind of advice would you have? I know it's such a shitty, corny question, but I feel like I always have. What's the thing that I always have so many things where I'm like, man, if somebody just told me this a couple years ago, I would have saved myself a lot of time and fucking headache. Is there any just even if it's one or two things, even just one, something that you know now that you were like, man, I wish somebody told me this when I was in my first year?
Like as far as stand-up goes, or like kind of just in general?
Any of it, really, yeah.
I would say the biggest thing there's two huge things. You got to put in the work. You got to practice. You got to do shows. Writing, that type of thing. I definitely need to write more. I've kind of got stuck in a loop of like hosting stuff and trying to like grind down 10 minutes, like the same 10 minutes for a while, and then it's like, oh, I need to write new shit. So always kind of put in the work, write, perform, be working on whatever it is you're doing, music, practice, writing songs, getting up in front of people. And then just don't be a dick is really huge.
Yep.
That's awesome. It's really huge because, kind of what I was talking about, like, even with a band, like, say you watched a band and you're like, man, these guys are great. We would love to have them in Baltimore. And then you go up and talk to them, like, guys, you were so good. And they're like, yeah, whatever, man. You're going to be less inclined to have those people around you when they're total cunts.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And like in stand-up, people, they'll say like, I mean, everybody talks shit about everybody a little bit. I think it's just how humans do, but not necessarily bad stuff sometimes. But like, just be nice. Like some people are like, oh man, fuck that guy, he fucking sucks, blah blah blah. It's like, well, or like, why did he get so and so show, or why?
It's more of that. It's more jealousy. I feel like the hate stops once you get your own success a little bit.
Yeah, and then, just realizing that doesn't get you anywhere. Like, it's still going to happen, I think, but then just to kind of check it and be like, all right, I'm kind of my own lane. That stuff's going to happen for me. I need to work on that. And then I would say just chill out is a huge part of it, which is tough to do when you're, like, super nervous or anxious. Like, I did a show in Easton, and a lot of my family came out to it, and for some reason I was just up in my head. So as soon as I was on stage, I was like, hey, here's one thing, and now here's another thing. Okay, hello, goodbye. What about pants? All right, see you later. Like I was just going a mile a minute and kind of like talking at the audience rather than to the audience. And then so afterwards, I was like, I wish somebody would just tell me, like, just chill the fuck out. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with now. I watched, me and my girlfriend watched the movie St. Vincent last night, which is really good with Bill Murray, and there are a bunch of like extra features with it. And he was saying his advice, like there were Q&As, like special features with it, and he was talking about like his process, and he said that somebody early on told him, relax. Like when you relax, that's when you're best at anything that you're doing.
Yep.
So that just kind of struck me, that, being like coming off of this show where I was super nervous and kind of in my head, and it's just funny because other people be like, why? Like, you're fine. You're a good comedian. Like, why are you up in your head? It's like, I don't know. I think it's just because my aunt and uncle were there, and I'm like, I'm good at this. I swear. So
thanks for that loan.
Yeah,
this is worth it.
Right. I'll see you at Thanksgiving. Don't hate me. So yeah, I would say just put in the work and don't be a dick and chill the fuck out. Are what I'm working on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it and giving
Yeah.
advice and sharing your Patton story. And
Oh, of
dude,
course.
everyone listen to the Digression Sessions podcast, obviously.
Yeah.
Are there any other plugs you can give? And after this, if you want to send me a message on Facebook with any links, and I'll throw them up with the show when it goes up.
Sure. Yeah. So if you go, Digression Sessions, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Come find us there. Say hello. Let's see. Our podcast network here in Baltimore is called Thundergrunt. If you go to thundergrunt.com, got a bunch of other podcasts there. Follow us on Twitter. I am at Josh Kuderna. That's Josh Kuderna. Super hard to remember. I hate giving that out, but it's nice that it's my name. Branding, Eric. Branding is the #1 thing. I know I said don't be a dick, but be a fucking dick. Be cool. That's the advice. Yeah, follow us on Twitter. Mike Moran is at Mike Moran Wood, as in what would Jesus do, and then the podcast is at DigSeshPod. I always feel like such a shill plugging all this stuff. I'm like,
you found decent ways to do each one. That's fantastic. I was like, this guy's a pro. This guy knows.
There's a lot of ways to find me on the internet and fill that hole in my soul. Show that I'm needed, guys.
You can find him in any coffee shop talking about the people he's interviewed.
And I'm just gonna end up being like an old haggard guy in Hamden. Like, I talked to Patton. Yeah. Joe DeRosa, I have his phone number. Yeah, so that's it. Listen to the podcast. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, all that stuff. And then if you want to stream it, go to thundergrunt.com or digressionsessions.com. Get some magnets, kids.
Get some magnets. We don't know how they work, but if you get them, they'll be good for you.
Tell us how they work, please.
Yeah, you can email us. All right. Well, thank you very much, man. It was really good talking to you,
dude. Eric, this was awesome, man. Let me know when it's up, and I won't retweet it because this is cool.
Good. Will you at least favorite it or?
Man, I'm really busy.
I'll post it on Reddit, and you can downvote it. How about that?
Yeah. Send me a link to your RSS feed. I want that shit to run. I don't want an intermediary. I want.
That's insane. Baseball is fuck. Let's end on that.
Yeah, I want uncut fucking pod. I don't need it stepped on by some intermediary bullshit, Eric.
Just give it. That's why you're the best. Just give me your RSS feed. All right, man. I will catch you later, dude.
All right, Eric. Thanks, man.